Hello and welcome to another weekly analysis behind the news. Those of you following the daily headlines these past few weeks will notice that it appears that the media is in attack mode. What do you see in the way of news that is not critical of the administration? And how do you think that compares to President Obama's first 30 days in office during his first term? Now, don't get me wrong, media shouldn't be pro-Trump and it shouldn't be anti-Trump, but it should be covering the actions of the federal government acting outside of its constitutional limitations, regardless of who is in office and what party is in office. But what do we get? A media that is critical of an administration's departure from the previous administration's political agenda, of which the media, by and large, had bought into. Some media are now reporting on the efforts of the previous administration's efforts to sabotage the current administration. The New York Post says in a headline how Obama is scheming to sabotage Trump's presidency. And it starts off in here, it says, yes, Obama has an army of agitators numbering more than 30,000 who will fight his Republican successor at every turn of his historic presidency. And Obama will command them from a bunker less than 2 miles from the White House. Again, this is the New York Post saying this. I'm going to read just a little bit more of this. It's going to read actually quite a bit, so hang in there. But this is very important stuff. In what's shaping up to be a highly unusual post-presidency, Obama isn't just staying behind in Washington. He's working behind the scenes to set up what will effectively be a shadow government to not only protect his threatened legacy, but to sabotage the incoming administration and its popular America First agenda. He's doing it through a network of leftist nonprofits led by Organizing for Action. Normally, you'd expect an organization set up to support a politician and his agenda to close up shop after that candidate leaves office. But not Obama's OFA. Rather, it's gearing up for battle with a growing war chest and more than 250 offices across the country. On to page 2. Since Donald Trump's election, this little-known but well-funded protesting arm has beefed up staff and ramped up recruitment of young liberal activists, declaring on its website, "We're not backing down." Determined to salvage Obama's legacy, it's drawing battle lines on immigration, Obamacare, race relations, and climate change. Obama is intimately involved in OFA operations and even tweets from the group's account. In fact, he gave marching orders to OFA foot soldiers following Trump's upset victory. He says, "It is fine for everybody to feel stressed, sad, discouraged," he said in a conference call from the White House, "but get over it." He demanded they move forward to protect what we've accomplished. "Now is the time for some organizing," he said, "so don't mope." Far from sulking, OFA activists help organize anti-Trump marches across U.S. cities, some of which turned into riots. And what does this demonstrate? This demonstrates that the country did not elect a president in 2008. It elected an Alinsky street organizer dedicated to transforming this nation under a political agenda that is wiping out liberty, the independence of our nation, and moving us further and further away from our constitutional moorings. For President Obama and his underlings, there isn't such a thing as downtime or off-season. They are consistently moving ahead with their organizing efforts. And as a whole, conservatives have been very weak on organizing. They've had a hard time coalescing behind anyone, much less a movement. Well, and who can blame them? We're individualists, not collectivists. But we need to recognize that this fundamental transforming of America will continue and needs to be countered. If we are to prevail, we need to understand that we should have no off-season, and that globalists in both parties use any and all opportunities to further this agenda. The constitutional Republicans must recognize this and work to expose it if they are to make any significant advances back to the Constitution within the next 4 years. To give you a further education of the effects of a shadow government, we recommend watching the video Agenda and Agenda 2, as well as reading the books Shadows of Power. All of these are available on shopjbs.org. Of course, we'll have links in the video description. One item of note that you won't find much mention of in the news is something that happened in Montana this last week. Representative Brad Chida, the main sponsor of a Article 5 Constitutional Convention resolution, called into a Montana radio show to give some perspective as to why he had sponsored the resolution and what he had hoped to accomplish. Also on this radio show was Robert Brown, a former JBS staff member, constitutional researcher, and author of many effective educational tools about the Constitution. It's fair to say that he's a constitutional scholar. Once the good representative explained his position, Robert explained ours. By the time he was done, Representative Chida became genuinely interested in learning more. By the time the committee hearing, a day or two later, he stood up and told the committee that he was voting against it and that he recommended the rest of the committee do the same. All because he had heard the truth about an Article 5 convention, as well as the constitutional solutions that the states already have for reining in the federal government. We applaud his honesty and humble integrity, and we invite all state legislators to enforce the Constitution and not change it. One of the sponsoring organizations has spent millions of dollars trying to ram these resolutions through in many states. But the John Birch Society, on a fraction, mind you, of that budget, has been winning the argument based off of truth. Leaders of the opposition have taken to calling state legislators phony conservatives and fools, as well as calling solid constitutional organizations fringe groups. It's interesting that these so-called conservative groups would resort to the left's tactics of bullying. JBS has battled these types of groups since day one on both the left and the right. We've seen them come, we've seen them go. You can bet that we will still be standing long after they are gone. To see if your state is targeted for a CONCON resolution, visit jbs.org, find action projects, and click on the Stop the CONCON page. We'll link to it in the video description. There's no better time to get involved than right now. Visit jbs.org for more information. And be sure to like and share this video with family and friends. Sign up for our e-newsletters and subscribe to our social media channels. Until next week, we'll see you then.